this leads into something, talking about the timing stuff in our Discord group. So we have a Discord group for owners. So Elon, you should pop into there. So Reverend Slim has this whole write up. I mean, it wouldn't even fit in one post. He literally wrote a essay about how to do this thing. Yeah. So it's in the Discord group, and it's how to use those timing tests, the speaker pairs. The way he uses it. So it's pretty interesting. But another discussion that we've been having in there that a lot of people don't seem to know is that the Denon and Marantz does not do the distance measurement properly. So when you do auto calibration, and I asked him to back me up on here because he's the one who told me about it. But I think that they don't do the correct calculation, because what do they do? 1 foot equals 1 millisecond or something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, it's 13 inches is a millisecond. So the thing is, it's kind of like rounding, right? They're just that's good enough, right? Yeah. So he says they use 1 foot equals 1 millisecond of delay. Speed of sound is 1.132, right? And the problem is, when I asked him, I'm like, well, doesn't it not matter if all of them are kind of messed up by this mount? And he said, no, because the further your speaker is, the more incorrect it is.
Right.
Right? Because it's a multiplication issue, right? It's not just addition.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you have something that's really far away, it's actually pretty off, by a significant amount, something you'd notice. Amount. And so the idea is, where do I have it? Do I have it written down somewhere? Oh yeah. So the way to fix the issue of if you have Denon or Marantz is you have to multiply. If you're using feet, you multiply by 0.889 and enter that in, right? Jeez. And if you're in meters, you multiply by 0.875, right? And that'll get you the correct distance or correct time delay. Now, the thing is that if you're using multi-QX, so Jed knows here, if you're using multi-QX, they apply this fix, right? So it's if you're using that, it doesn't have that issue.
Yeah.
Right? It's only if you're using the Odyssey editor app to do the calibration, or if you do calibration, just by plugging it in and doing the old-fashioned way, right? Mm-hmm. But it's kind of crazy. These are expensive devices, right?
Yeah, dude.
Couple $1,000, right? And
this AV10 was 7,000, right?
Just kind of rounding, you know what I mean? Wow. And so let's see. I don't know if anybody's tried this, but Reverend Slim was just saying that he does, that there's a difference so that you can perceive. If you're using multi-QX and want to see what it will upload in feet, change units to milliseconds. Okay. Sips and wipe out. So anyway, I thought that was a interesting thing that people should be aware of. If you're really trying to dial stuff in, you want to get those things as close to perfect as possible.
I mean, this brings up something that I've been thinking about for a while. I mean, I know nobody's being malicious or anything like that. But some of this shit just isn't right. Some of the shit isn't correct. And they've been selling a lot of units on the stuff, and it's wrong. Now we're having, people not really exposing, but just being like, oh, hey, there's something's not adding up here. Why is this not adding up correctly? And you would think it's more of a bigger issue. How long has this shit been wrong for?
Mm-hmm.
And people are, I'm fortunate enough that if I want a new $2,000 or $3,000 receiver, I'll order one online right away if I need to. I'm fortunate enough, right? But there's a lot of people that are scrimping and saving for that $1,000 receiver or whatever their it is, and it's just man, how long has this been fucked up, and how many companies does this apply to, and for how long? How long have we been, like Sasha always says that phrase, man, been being sold some naked ass dreams And it's just wrong, you know?
So sometimes it's just like up to guys like us and, you know, the people who are watching to like check some of this stuff sometimes, right? Like you can't just assume like, oh, they got it all right. Of course they did, right? And then you start doing some tests like, hold on a second, what's going on? Like when I used to do the what do you call it? Custom curve on the Odyssey editor app, right? I'd apply this curve and I'm like, why is there a dip now? What is that? And now we find out with the new multi-QX, like, oh, it's because they're level matching. So you go to bump it up and then it lowers it down. That's why there's a bump and then lower and then your main speakers. I'm like, okay, what the heck? You know what I'm saying? So it's funny though. You know, people complain about our $100 disc, like, oh, it's so crazy, $100. And here you go spending, you know, a couple $1,000 and it's not correct. But you know what? We try our best to make sure our $100 disc is as correct as possible. Right? So it's just kind of funny.
Yeah. I got 3 discs to check from the author. And I sat there and went through all 160 files. Oh, this one thing is not working properly. Can we fix the navigation part on this? Okay, here's the next disc. Boom. Went through all 160. Okay, cool. This is cool, but now this is wrong. Got the 3rd disc. Went through 160. I was so tired sitting in here. Sometimes like I would just fall asleep and I'm like, crap, where was I? You know, I like had to keep like a tally so I knew where I was just in case. But yeah, it was taking a long time, man.
Yeah, so yeah, they should patch the firmware fix. Yeah, they should fix it. They should fix it. Yeah. You know, speaking of like things that are not right, that are like, are you serious? I talked to Wilfried for a while the other day, like randomly. I was just like messing around with some Oro stuff, and you know, I messaged him like, you know, just like a quick question, right? And ended up talking to him about, you know, the stuff that we're doing with the toolkit and how we wanted to do a call out. We wanted to do a call out for like 0 degrees, which is direct center, and then 10-degree increments, right? Something like that, where it would say, all right, we're 10 degrees this way, 20, 30, right? And we found out that to go to the right speaker, we had to go to 45 degrees, right? 45 degrees is right speaker. Right? Except our speakers are typically at 30 degrees or 22.5. Yeah. So if I did that call out, it would be in the wrong place. So I was like, oh man, this is confusing. Like, how does this work? Anyway,
Joe and I went back and forth on that for a while. And I was just like, oh, Dolby just didn't care. They just made it 45. They literally changed it for Atmos. For probably for their purposes to make it easier to create stuff with the metadata. I don't know, but
it was like that in Logic 2 before that though. So before the Atmos stuff, it was also 45 degrees. It shows in the different panners 45 degrees, right? So I told this to Wilfried. So this guy's the creator, one of the creators of Oro 3D, right? Like that's pretty big. Like it's in a lot of AVRs, right? And when I told him that, he's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, that's not possible. Like, it's supposed to be a 30. I'm like, you want to log into my computer? I'll show you right now. And he's like, no, that's like, I don't, like, why? He was like, he called up another guy. He called up another guy who produces music, like straight up, called this dude up, had him on a Zoom call. He's like, is this true? He's like, yeah, it's just how it is. They're like, and Wilfried was just like, how though? Like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't correspond with the speaker. I'm like, that's what I'm telling everybody. It doesn't correspond. Right? So what do you want to do? Like, what can we do about that? And he was just like, oh, he couldn't believe it. Right? And this is the type of stuff that I'm talking about. Like, sometimes you just got to question things. Right? And we look like the crazy ones because it's like, yeah, we look like crazy because everybody knows it's supposed to be 30. Yeah. But it's not. Right. It's at 45. I'm telling you guys. And the interesting thing is I used a different software. I tried Reaper, and that one is actually different. The pan law on that one is when you pan to 30 degrees, that's fully right. And then if you pan more, it doesn't do anything. It's just like a blank space. Like You could go to 45, but it doesn't do anything different. Max is at 30. So that one does it differently. But anybody who's using Logic or some of the other popular ones, it's showing up as 45 degrees. So what does that mean for all of us who are like trying to get our speakers in the perfect place, right? Anyway, it's just, it's kind of crazy. I don't know what to say about that one yet, because if most of them are doing 45, what do you do? I'm not going to tell everybody just change all your speakers to 45, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that one. I'm just reporting what we're finding.
Just reporting your findings, right? Like how, like it's just kind of weird, right? It's like when me trying to make a sound go from my front left to my front left height.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried it upstairs where my speakers aren't in a cube shape. They're in the Atmos spec shape. And I was just like, oh, why is the sound coming toward me? And then I was just like, oh, this is not right here. And for those that like to, regurgitate what Dolby says is supposed to be correct, good for you. But there's something else going on here and if you think about, it's 2023. 2014 is when Dolby announced Atmos for the home. Is that pretty sure, right? So now we're getting to the point where it's 9 years in and you got people like Joe and me and Joe, and we're just poking around in there. I'll tell you this. How long did it take, Joe? It took 3 weeks until we figured out how to properly set the LFE in this thing. It's something like that. And you guys should have seen it. I was sitting in the hot seat here facing this way with binaural mics on so that Joe could hear exactly what's happening in his room.
So
down in LA,
Hey, real quick, Jed asks, if you pan 45 degrees, does it hit the front wides? And that's no. What is the angle again? Something weird, like it's something specific, right?
I'm not telling you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. So, never mind.
Shit. Nobody knows.
It's not 45 then.
It's 100% not 45. And the front wide is more, it's not about well, I guess you could try to put an angle to it. We'd have to actually measure it out and figure it out. But a lot of people think the distance for a front wide is directly in between the left, let's say front left, and the surround left. And that's not the case. Anytime I put a sound directly in between it, that sound would come out of both the front left and the the surround left and the front wide.
I like how you kept that one secret. It took you too long to find that one out. You're not gonna tell everybody, right?
Freaked the fuck out when somebody told me the sound is coming out of two speakers. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, did you test it? I'm like, oh crap, no, I didn't test it. Then I busted out. I moved like things up to the living room, set up all these, since I have tripods on these speakers, set up like 3 of them, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, oh man, what's going on? What do I got to do? And it took a good 4 or 5 hours to finally figure out the problem and the solution. And when I finally figured it out, I sent Joe a message. I'm like, I got it. I got that fucker. I finally got it. And it was so great. And and that's why.
That's why you guys are not going to find out.
Yeah.
You're just
not going to know. Not going to know what that magic number is.
So what do you all right. If you would like to join us every week on Mondays at, what time is it? About 6 p.m. Central, which is the best time. That's where I am. Make sure you join us at youtube.com/Daily HiFi. We out.